Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It's your boy Marvin. Just going to be talking about what's been happening in Paris. It seems a nightmare. A boy basically was shot by police, and many young people are rioting and causing havoc, all over the city. It's just absolutely crazy what's been happening. So I've been sort of keeping tabs on it, and this is one of the latest reports on it.
Here in Paris, there is currently a sense of calm, but we're all waiting to see if this is the calm before the storm. Even here in the center of Paris has been scenes of disorder, and that disorder is expected to shut down Paris tonight. There have been calls by the government to shut down the bus and tram services tonight, not too long from now. Furthermore, we're expecting to see 40,000 officers deployed to the streets to stop the scenes that we've seen since Tuesday. It was on Tuesday when 17-year-old Nahul was driving a car in a bus lane and was stopped by the police. When he tried to flee, according to the official accounts, the police responded with a fatal shot. Supporters now are calling for vengeance, but it's important to add that there are also historic cases driving the protests and disorder that we have seen. This is a new flashpoint built on old wounds driven by historic senses of racial inequality and injustice. There's also a sense of concern with the political backlash from both the centre and the right towards multiculturalism. And of course, there are also global parallels. In England in 2011, we had the riots following the shooting of Mark Duggan, and more recently, following the killing of George Floyd in the US, which started waves of disorder and a huge international movement. Here in France, we're waiting to see what the global impact will be. But in the short term, with the summer here, the schools out and the weather warm, when will this sense of disobedience and disorder come to an end?
If you are a builder, contractor or industry professional like an architect, engineer or project manager, we help people like you get...
It sounds as though, like I said, that the police, with their little bit of injustice, with the police shooting this young lad, especially in France as well, just open fired on him. It's it happens a lot in America, yeah, but France is quite a little bit disturbing. At the end of the, we don't know whether he was brandishing a weapon or why would they just open fire? Why didn't they tase him or chase him and tase him or detain him using handcuffs? It is something that needs to be looked at by the chief of police. Someone just shot for running off, especially in France, because their basically police are a lot like ours. Like laws and regulation. I could understand if he was brandishing a weapon or was armed, but to be shot just because of running, questions must be asked.
The third night of sustained violence between police and protesters, the most intense so far. It began in the Parisian suburb of Nanterre over the police killing of 17-year-old Nahal, who was of North African heritage. Police clashed with citizens following a vigil for the teenager. Cars were burned, streets barricaded, and objects hurled at riot police, in an outpouring of rage that could not be ignored. The violence started 3 days ago in the northwest of the capital, where a police officer shot the teenage boy dead during a traffic stop. Following the outcry over his death, rioting and disorder spread across Paris, including protesters lighting fires at the city hall of Clichy-sous-Bois and setting a bus depot ablaze in Aubervilliers. The clashes spread across the length and breadth of the country, from Lille in the north to Toulouse in the south. According to the Interior Ministry, 79 police posts were attacked as well as 119 public buildings. Overnight, well over
That's absolutely crazy. Police buildings being attacked, under attack. That's nuts, and it's spiking all over Paris and nearby suburbs. That's just nuts. That really, really is. The height of destruction is unbelievable, and the government need to do more to put an end to it. Nothing's ever going to get resolved just destroying stuff and smashing basically things up, because it just come out of our taxes at the end of the day. It's just silly, destroying your own city. I know basically it looks like this young lad was unlawfully killed, but like I said, it's not the best way to deal with it, just to go rioting and going mad and smashing up shops, because somebody's got to pay for it, and it just come out of people's taxes for building the city back up again.
800 arrests were made and at least 200 police officers injured, leaving France in the grip of a national crisis. President Macron hurried back from an EU summit early to chair his second emergency cabinet meeting in as many days. No doubt stung by criticism that he spent Wednesday night at Elton John's concert rather than dealing with the crisis. He now faces calls to declare a state of emergency, as President Jacques Chirac did in 2005 when riots in the capital raged for 3 weeks. But in 2005, social media was not as pervasive. Now President Macron is at least in part blaming copycat violence by teenagers organised online.
Social media platforms play a significant role in the events of the past few days. We have on several of them, Snapchat, TikTok and several others, both the organisation of violent gatherings and a form of mimicking of violence, which among the youngest leads to a feeling of unreality. It sometimes feels like some of them are experiencing in the streets the video games that have intoxicated them.
The officer who fired the deadly shot today has indicated that he will plead not guilty to a homicide charge, but has offered his apology to Nahal's family. But many public figures are calling for justice above all.
Today, calm would not happen if there are no political decisions or actions. We need political actions on the question of police violence. Justice has to be served, that's for sure.
A UN spokesperson for human rights has asked the country to address some of its issues with law enforcement.
We are concerned by the killing of a 17-year-old of North African descent by police in France on Tuesday. We note that an investigation has been launched into alleged voluntary homicide. This is a moment for the country to seriously address the deep issues of racism and racial discrimination.
The first thing we've got to look at is they were chasing him, the police officer opened fired and shot him. At the end of the day, the police officer said he's not in his wrong. Let it just go through the court system and deal with it in the most professional way possible through the courts. Because, like I said, someone's got to fit the bill for the attacking of police stations, people getting arrested. I think they've arrested over 200 people. Well, sorry, more, it probably goes into thousands now. It's absolutely crazy. And like I said, I think the government need to get a grip on things, but they should do now with 40,000 police basically on the streets. Because like I said, people talk on social media, people get angry and they group, they start throwing petrol bombs, fireworks. Someone could seriously get hurt here.
In law enforcement.
Do you want to have more effective communication so you can get ahead at work?
Authorities are bracing themselves for more trouble over the weekend, with Marseille, France's second largest city, now banning public demonstrations. The Interior Minister has asked for all bus and trams to stop throughout France at 9 o'clock tonight. But the fear that trouble will continue and even intensify further is thick in the air, especially as social media fans the flames. Now, unquestionably here for those taken to the streets, this is a matter of racial injustice and police racism. But the government here have hit out at that. This is what they're saying. They say that accusations of systemic racism or discrimination by the police in France is totally unfounded. The problem here is that for those preparing to take to the streets again tonight, they do not agree or accept with that in the slightest. Studio.
Thanks, Simeon. Well, joining me now is Juan Branco, a civil rights lawyer from Le CRIN, a coalition of anti-racist campaign groups in France, now bringing a civil case against the French police over the death of 17-year-old Nahel. Juan Branco, what do you...
It does seem like something was brewing between the police and ethnic minorities, but sometimes things just don't spark off just off one thing. It sparks off over a few things, over a few months, where sometimes the police are not treating them correctly. But like I said, it needs a massive further investigation to sort of boil down to what the matter is at the end of the day, because it just seems like for the city's people just to come out in force like that, not just for one shooting, it must have been an accumulation of things that need to be dealt with and looked at by the government. To be honest, I don't know enough of what had been happening previously to the shooting, but that's my thoughts on that.
You make of that denial by the French government that there is a problem of systemic racism in the police?
Everyone is conscious in France that France is a segregated country in which there is two parallel societies. One which lives in the suburbs, which is from certain origins, from a part of it, which from Northern Africa and Africa, and a very conservative and protected white elite that lives in the center of the city of Paris. This is for the main central Parisian situation, but you can see a similar configuration in the main cities of France, in Bordeaux, Lyon, Toulouse, and so forth. And then, of course, you have other kinds of social problems in France, but this one is a key one. And of course, police is at the center of this problematic, and police is being asked to provide with solutions to this crisis and to this political segregation. And there is, of course, an impossibility to use police in order to create a solution for that. There has been no political answer in the last 72 hours from the government, only calls for peace or order, depending on which government, which minister would speak. But this shows that there is a clear denial of reality that is extremely problematic.
So do you think this is going to go on and get worse?
It's complicated in a frame in which there is no political leader that actually is protecting the interests of this population to actually see a political movement start from here. But what is certain is that the violence will continue today and for the next days, because what we're seeing today is like a complete decompensation, in a sense, of part of the society which has decided to not even call politically for anything, but just to destroy and produce violence in order to be heard and respected at last.
Now the parallels between this police killing caught on camera and what happened to George Floyd in the United States are inescapable. But in that case, we saw outrage and anger across the world, really, across all sections of society. Is the whole of France outraged by this killing, or is it only part of France?
Not at all, and it's a huge problematic in France. You have an important dimension of French society which has been nurtured and nourished in the last years by racist and discriminatory discourse, which considers that either this killing was justified or at least that there was some kind of protection that should be attributed to the police. And we're finding ourselves in a situation in which I wouldn't speak of civil war phenomenon or even climate, but there is a clear, again, segregation in terms of opinions, and I mean that translates in opinions. And we see a capacity of empathy towards the 17-year-old child, which is very limited by part of the population, also because violence has been increasing in the last years in France.
I mean, if it's been caught on camera, then they can investigate it. Basically, it makes you wonder: did other youth see this young lad being gunned down? And that's why they've taken it to the streets. But obviously, the acts of violence. Uh, to make a statement. Basically, they should, ask to talk to these leaders for something to do about it. But obviously, um, it's like I said, they've gone out in force, in anger, and destroying everything in their sight, to make a statement that they're not having it. And obviously, the president there is going to have to basically stamp it out and get to the root of the problem. Unless at the end of the day, there's France. It's going to be divided, the poor and rich, and it's going to come further and further apart unless the government actually deal with it and give everybody an opportunity of work or support or something along those lines.
There's a huge crisis of the state in France and of its capacity to actually maintain its authority over the whole territory. And it has created a lot of suffering and a lot of these discourses which opportunistically take advantage of this situation to put the blame on either immigrants or people from second or third generation.
And why are you bringing a civil case when there is a criminal case? Is it because you don't have confidence in that?
To be more precise, we're participating. There is a provision in the French criminal law which allows us to participate in the criminal case as a partie civile, as they call it. So both cases will be connected, or are joined, both the civil and the criminal case. But our organization is legally authorized to participate as a victim because we consider that this is a racist crime. It is linked and caused by racist either motives directly from the person or either structurally because of the situation, because once again, most of the victims of police violence.
Okay, that makes sense. So at the end of the day, obviously, if it's racial and the police behind it act unlawfully, then he should be tried for murder or manslaughter at the end of the day. But like I said, it just needs to be looked into a lot deeper because you hardly hear someone being shot in France. It's got to be like I said, something very big to spark people off into action to do that.
Violence are either politically identified in France, for example, with the Yellow Vest movement, either racially discriminated. So we consider that this is the case, and the law authorizes us to participate in these proceedings, and we will be following and making sure that justice will be served not only for the family of Nael, but also for all the people who are suffering from these discriminations.
Juan Branco, thank you very much for talking to us.
Right, that was it. So we just got to go on whether now the courts will say it was a viable shooting, a lawful shooting, or it was an unlawful shooting and the police officer will be done for murder. But like I said, I suppose the people are going to want sort of this dealt with very, very quickly, or some answers, or this is going to be carrying on and costing the government hundreds of thousands of, or even millions to actually fix their city. It's just unbelievable. But like I said, it seems like to me it was something brewing due to no opportunities for poor people. I'm not making excuses for them, but you've got to look at the lead up to behind the violence and what has been brewing. I think if you probably look at interviews of people who actually come out, they'll actually tell you what was actually happening. Obviously, the police and the young adults don't feel that the police are helping them and they're the hindrance, or there's racism there or prejudice there. I think there's a lot of things that can actually spark riots off. But this seems like to me it's been brewing for quite some time. And like I said, the president, Macron, is basically going to really have to look into this and put a stop to it and have some questions to answer to get control of the city again. Don't forget to subscribe to Streamline Entertainment and follow your boy Marvin. Thank you.